Thank you for joining us today to watch our recorded webinar on the Coordinated Entry System, HMIS Referral Need Status Glossary, and Timeliness Standard. This is Renee Crolius from All Chicago speaking to you right now. We will have other presenters throughout the webinar. Today we're going to cover the contact protocol that has been in place since the inception of coordinated entry. We will then talk about the new timeliness standard that was added in April of 2019. We will review the need status glossary, how to update need statuses in HMIS, and then just chat about a few common referral need statuses that are used or sometimes misunderstood. So we're going to start with the contact protocol, which has always been in place, but sometimes we just need a brief refresher. So housing providers should attempt to contact the referred household within 2 business days for a period of 10 days from the date of the match or referral. You'll notice that we talk about referral from coordinated entry or match from coordinated entry, and when we say match or referral, we mean the same thing. And we wanted to talk about also that housing providers should update the need status within 2 business days of receipt of the referral. So not only are you reaching out to that referred client within 2 days, but then you're also making sure that you are making a change to the HMIS need status to make sure that we know you are in fact attempting contact. So what you'll see is the initial need status will be CES matched awaiting response by housing provider. That status should be changed to reflect the current work that you have with the individual or household, and reflect what that status is as they are in the process of enrolling into your program. So you may still be attempting contact, or maybe you made contact with them on your first phone call and within a couple of days, you've already completed the intake. Either way, we want to see that there's been a change within those 2 days. What you noticed in our contact protocol is that you have 2 business days from the time of referral to reach out and attempt contact. And what the protocol also says is you should be attempting contact for up to 10 business days. And the reason we have that is so that you really exhaust every attempt possible to try to find that client or that household before you request a rematch and move on to a new household. What we noticed is, although we have a time frame around 10 business days, we do know that some agencies have made the decision to try a little bit longer than 10 business days, and that's okay with us. We just had a minimum standard. We didn't really have a maximum standard for how long you should wait to ask for another rematch. And what we noticed with that is some clients or households didn't ever have a final update to that referral need status that could communicate back to us whether or not your program was still trying to engage and work with them, or if this client just really could never be found and they needed to either come off of our list or try to be found or rematched. And so we have a new timeliness standard to make sure that we have all need statuses resolved. So added to the housing provider contact protocol in April of 2019, we have that within 30 days from receiving the initial CES match or referral, housing providers must update the HMIS referral need status to represent the household status towards project enrollment by selecting one of the following categories. So either the client is already going to be enrolled and you just need to make sure the need status says CES enrolled. Hopefully within 30 days, maybe that person is already housed, and so you could have CES housed as well. The second option is within 30 days, we would need to know if they're not enrolled already and you don't plan to be moving forward with them, the need status should reflect CES, rematch needed, and the most appropriate reason from the glossary, which there are many options, and we'll go over that in a little bit later. The third status is a new category that we created specifically for this timeliness standard to be in place. And what we've added is that you have CES client engaged in progress to enrollment. So this means that even if you received this referral 30 days ago and they're not yet enrolled, maybe because they've missed various intake appointments or you're still working through some things, but you're still engaged with the client and plan to enroll them and you don't need a new household, you can select this category and you will satisfy the timeliness standard. To provide your agency with support in making sure you meet this timeliness standard, we have automatic reminders set up to be emailed to your ATA, your Agency Technical Administrator. We know it can be hard to remember the date that you received the referral and when that 30-day deadline is coming up. So your ATA will receive an email on day 25 saying you have a 5-day reminder. The ATA will then also receive daily emails from day 30 through 35. The reason we have through day 35 is after day 35, we will make some changes on our end to that need status. We ask that your ATA forward these emails to the appropriate program staff person at your agency if your ATA is not the person who updates the need status, and each agency structures that a bit differently. So we ask for your ATA and your project support in making sure these emails get to the right people. So I mentioned that if the referral need status is not resolved on day 35, that the need status will be changed to CES Rematch Needed. The CES Team Only will be doing this, and it'll say provider did not respond, and the household will then be placed back on the one list and eligible to be matched to a different provider. We don't expect this to happen very often, but in rare circumstances where we just do not get responses from a housing provider, we do not want this to negatively impact a client or household's ability to be matched and housed in our system. And because we only do, a household is only matched to one provider at any given time, if that need status has not been resolved, it doesn't allow the client to have that opportunity for another housing match. So that is why we have that need status. And again, we hope that we don't have to use it very often, but if it does, that means that client is now eligible for another match. I mentioned that third option to resolve within 30 days, and that other slide showed this need status in orange as well, the CES client engaged in progress to enrollment. So if we see that need status is selected on day 30, you will have been in compliance with this timeliness standard. However, we don't expect that is the end resolution for this client because you're stating to us that they are not yet enrolled in your project. So we will be checking back in after another 30 days to see if there is any change to the status of this client. And in that case, the need status would have to be resolved with the 3 options above. So the 3 that we had already talked about, either being enrolled, a rematch needed, and if for any reason it was still 60 days, that they were still client engaged in progress to enrollment, we would likely just be having a quick conversation to see if that truly is the case.
So this is Bridget Doviet with All Chicago, and I'm going to be talking with you about the Need Status Glossary, which you can look at the help desk, the HMIS help desk for. It has been recently updated to make it more user-friendly. There, if you're just looking about what the definition of a need status is, that's on there. If you forget the timeliness standard and you need a refresher, that is also on there. The need statuses are ordered in the way that they are in HMIS. So when you select the drop-down, this is the order they will be in. The color coding is green, and those are need statuses that you will commonly use. Gray are ones that you will probably never use unless you've been instructed to use during your training. And the need statuses in red are the ones that you should never use, but they are still on the drop-down. Those ones will be more towards the bottom, as you can see. So here we have the table that shows you what the need statuses are, and then also what their definitions are. So if you need further explanation, this is a great place to look. And then we do have a column also if you're wondering, is this need status affected by the timeliness standard? That is the third column to the right.
Okay, so this is Anna on the HMIS team here at All Chicago. I'm going to show you how to update the need status in HMIS. Get out of here, go to Service Point, and this is a test client and service point. So you're likely going to be on the client information, the summary profile area. You're going to click on service transactions, view entire service history, and then click on referrals, and you're going to click on this little pencil edit button, and then scroll all the way down to the need status and switch it to, this is what you're going to see when you initially get it, CES matched, awaiting response by housing provider, and then you're going to pick the option that best supports what's happening in your situation. So again, you're basically never going to use these FHP or the home path or you're never going to use the identifier in progress or the outreach and the service transactions. Unless you've been specifically told to use this FHP or home path, you're never going to use those. So pick the best option that you are using right now. So it may be client engaged in progress to enrollment, and then you're going to save, or you might want to go back up and add a note. So you would go up to need information, use the edit pencil to add any notes to provide the matching team some more information about the client's situation, especially if there's a rematch needed. So then from there you can go ahead and save and exit, and then you can just see how that has been updated here on the right.
Great, so to finish our presentation, we're just going to cover some commonly used referral need statuses or tips that we want to share with you. As Bridget just mentioned, all of the need statuses can be found in the glossary, where there's a column that explains the description of each need status and gives more context to when you would use those need statuses. So we would encourage you to use that resource. One question that we hear quite a bit is around when you select CES Rematch Needed, and let's say that Rematch Needed was because the client is no longer in Chicago. When you make that change to HMIS and you update the need status, as Anna just showed you how to do, if you need another referral, you still have to submit a request to Catholic Charities. Just by updating the HMIS Rematch Needed status, and HMIS does not automatically give you a new referral. So that's important, because I think sometimes we shy away from saying using CES Rematch Needed because there's a belief that you're going to automatically get a referral when you may not need it. And we know that there are times where that's the case. So please just know we want you to absolutely use CES Rematch Needed with the right appropriate reasons selected, and know that if you need another referral, you just need to ask for one. There's a newer need status that we want to provide a little bit more context to. Some of you may already be using it, especially if you were part of our test pilot while we were figuring this need status out. So there are various providers now in our system that receive more than one match per the match request. So you might hear that as 2-to-1 matching. And what that means is that every once in a while, you might actually have more households contacted and eligible for the opening that you have in your program. And if that is the case, and you're unable to move forward with both households, we ask that you use this CES Rematch Needed need status of client engaged, unit no longer available. So it means you've made positive contact with this client, you just don't have the capacity to serve them. Either you don't have the unit available, or in cases for rapid rehousing, maybe you just don't have the capacity or caseload size right now to take on another person. When you use this need status, that means that this household will be prioritized for the next opening, and we know that this household has already been matched and has already had a positive contact with the provider, so they know that they are in queue to be matched to another available opening soon. So that ends our presentation today. We know that you may have some additional follow-up questions or need more information, so please feel free to check out All Chicago's website. Also, we have the HMIS help desk on here. Plus, we have included CSH's coordinated entry website for more information as well. And as always, feel free to reach out to any of us with your questions. Thank you.
Thank you.